Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. In the next half hour, you'll obtain insights and tools to transform your life using the biblical principles found in the 12-step program. We believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience because we all have struggles in life. Struggles with addictions, food, depression, anxiety, and relationships, to name a few. You'll be encouraged to see how others have found a new way of life with hope for the future through life recovery. Your host is Steve Arterburn, founder of New Life Ministries and Women of Faith, author of over 100 books, and teaching pastor at Northview Church in Carmel, Indiana, one of the 20 largest churches in America. Steve is the co-editor of the Life Recovery Bible, the #1 selling recovery Bible. With over 3 million copies sold, this is the Bible given to inmates by Prison Fellowship and the Pew Bible for the Salvation Army. Now here's Steve.
Hi there, Steve Arterburn here, and welcome to Life Recovery Today. You know, I am hoping and praying that something's going to be said today that is going to help you immensely in whatever this world you're recovering from. And rather than listen to me, I want you to listen to one of the most competent and one of the most brilliant people that I know, Dr. John Townsend. But first, let me just mention that, you know, in step 7, we are asked to, we take time to humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. And our pride can sure keep us from asking for what we need. And our pride and other things can keep us from looking at the reality of our own lives. And, you know, a lot of us, we grew up in families where maybe we were ignored or kind of set off to the side, felt like didn't even matter if we were there, our needs were seldom met. And if that's the case, you know, we may find it very, very difficult to ask God to help us with our shortcomings because so many people all around us have had shortcomings. And it's easy to now spot everybody else. And it's almost like if we look at ourselves, we're going to collapse. Well, some of us may have become so self-sufficient that we really do need some help emotionally connecting with other people because, you know, we're determined that we're not ever going to need help from anybody. In fact, you know, we're going to be so determined that and independent that we're going to refuse to connect. And early on we do it and we learn it, how not to connect, and then we wake up one day and we realize, ooh, I actually do need other people to help me. So, how do we do that? How is it that we develop relationships with people that we can develop relationships with? Some more difficult than others, some pretty easy. But John Townsend, he's the co-author of Boundaries and many, many other great books. But he can help us in figuring out why we don't relate to others, why we're not emotionally available to others, and how can we literally become more connected in our relationships. And you know, if you have been on guard or protecting yourself all your life because you had some really crummy stuff, well, it's only natural that it's hard to reach a place of vulnerability and openness when you've been so busy protecting yourself. But John can help with that. He's helped millions of people. What I'm grateful for is that he has helped me. And I'm so glad that he took the time to do this amazing video we're going to watch today on building relationships and connecting in a deeper way. So let's hear from Dr. John Townsend.
Hi, I'm Dr. John Townsend. You know, we were never intended to live with their most important relationships to be with an emotionally unavailable situation. Now, there are lots of situations in relationships that can't be very emotional, like, gosh, if you're a fighter pilot, you can't think a lot about that, talk to your co-pilot about your feelings. But in life, like family life and in your most important business relationships, church life, the best possible relationships are those where you are available to them and they are available to you. Now, this is not like, psych speak or tech speak. I just want to describe what emotional availability is, because then we can understand what emotional unavailability is. When we're emotionally available to each other, it means two things. It means both people are present with themselves and present with the other person. Present means that if I'm present with myself, I know what I'm feeling. I know that I'm happy or sad or mad or anxious or whatever, but I know what I'm feeling and I can express that. That makes me emotionally available to someone in my life. So they go, it's not like, gosh, he's just like Sheldon on Big Bang Theory. He has no idea what he's feeling. That he knows what he's feeling. He's expressing what he's feeling. But you also have to be present with the other person's experience. In my book, People Fuel, I talk about getting in other people's well, their well of pain or their well of challenge or their well of hurt or frustration. And that basically means to be able to draw them out and ask, authentic questions to them, like, tell me more about that, or how'd that feel, or that must be hard. Not just questions, but also attuning statements where you're really empathizing with them. So then they know that they're not alone. So I don't want to be alone with myself. I want to express my feelings. I don't want to be mean or abusive, but I want to express my feelings. But I also need to put myself on the back burner and ask them about them. It's not only the words. It's not only the attuning words and questions also. It's also eye contact, warmth of tone, and body language. That's what all the science is saying. It's the words, it's the eye contact, it's the tone, and the body language. In my book, Loving People, we talk about how to develop that. So obviously, flip it around. So what's an emotionally unavailable person in your life? It's somebody who is either not present with themselves, and they just talk about facts and logic and events and opinions. That's all the left brain stuff, and goodness gracious, don't we need a left brain these days? But there's not the right brain stuff, which is the feeling part, the emotional part, the passions and that sort of thing, and to be able to talk about relationships. But the second part of an emotionally unavailable person is often they cannot or will not enter the other person's world, your world, for example. And they don't say, how did that feel? And they don't look at you with the right tone, and they don't warm it up, and they don't move toward all the things I just mentioned. A lot of times they just kind of like, well, I had a hard day. Yeah, well, I've had a hard day. That's an emotionally unavailable person. Or I was really frustrated today, and the person goes, well, here's what you ought to do. I ought to do these three things. Well, advice is not emotional availability. Or the person just says, well, anyway, let's talk about dinner, and they divert it. So however that works, that's not emotional availability, because they're not present with their own emotions and conveying them to you, and they're also not entering your world. So what do we do? There's a great Bible passage about that where Paul talks about the emotional unavailability of the Corinthians. It's in 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 11 and 12. He's talking about, how much he loves them. And I'm just going to read it to you because it's so powerful. He says, our mouth has spoken freely to you, O Corinthians. Our heart is open wide. I'm open with my emotions. You are not restrained by us. Here we go. But you are restrained in your own affections. Open up to us. The idea being, he's saying, you're emotionally unavailable. I know about your kids and your jobs, and maybe I know, about your theology, but I don't know you emotionally. And so he says, I want you to open wide. So obviously, God has lots and lots of interest in helping us with this. Let me give you some steps. First off, have a talk about the talk. I believe in dedicated conversations where we have to actually not just kind of on the fly, like not in between Netflix shows where you're picking up your popcorn, not a good time, or not while you're taking care of the kids because you're distracted. You need to say, can I talk to you about us for a second, and I want to make some improvements. I never start those conversations saying, I want to straighten you out. Like, can we just talk? And I'm feeling some emptiness between us. I want to make things better. Then you're not being the judge. You're just saying, I want to improve things. Who doesn't like self-improvement? I always say improve things. And so you mention to them when you have the talk, you just say, my experience is that I really care about us, but sometimes I feel like I can't reach you and that you're kind of not present. And then you own your part. And maybe is there a reason that you're not present with me? And, let them say something. Maybe they say, well, you're overwhelming. You talk all the time, or you preach at me all the time, or you try to fix me all the time, or you try to rescue me, then you go, oh my gosh, I'm part of the problem. Thank you so much. And you write it down. I'm going to change that. What do you want me to do? But then get back to the fact that, taking the beam out first always makes the rest of the conversation better. Then you just say, can I tell you what I need? I don't need you to always be like some perfect counselor with me. You're not my counselor. You're my friend or my spouse or whatever. But when you know that I have a great celebration to tell you that, I just knocked the cover off of it at work, or when I'm sad or scared or overwhelmed, I need for you to respond to me by being present with me and use those words because it'll help people. I need you to tell me how you're feeling about me right then. Not just about your own feelings, but about your feelings about me. Just tell me, that makes me sad that happened, Sally or Bill. That makes me feel like compassion for you. I get it. But I also need for you to be present with what I'm feeling and give them what I just gave you. I need to know by your warm eyes. I need to know by your body moving toward me, not like this. I need to know by a tone of care in you. I need to know by you not fixing me and not talking about yourself. I want to hear about you, but not while I'm feeling bad right now. So ask me questions and just say things that are warm and authentic, not like a script. I can't do a script, Bill or Sally. But just tell me, that must be hard, or that sounds overwhelming, or whatever. In my book, I list over 100 emotions categorized in 10 categories because people who don't have an emotional IQ can at least read it and go, sounds like you feel. It helps because people sometimes need a menu. And then after that, you're going to notice one of three things, I think. Either, I kind of think in threes when I think diagnostically about relationships. There's mild, moderate, and severe. If they're mild, they'll go, that's really helpful. And, I've been preoccupied and, okay, I'll pay more attention on me. You're in heaven because they get it. Moderate would go, I don't know what you're talking about, but, I think obviously it's probably because you're so overwhelming. Then you change what you need to change, but you also keep at it. And some people just need more persuading after a while. And be vulnerable with them. Don't nag them, but just say, it's important to me. I want to be close to you. I want to support you. I want to give you what you need, but I got to have some care myself. If they're severe, they're going to need therapy, just plain and simple. If you find out the first two aren't working, then you say, we need to see somebody. And don't say you need to see somebody, because most emotionally unavailable people don't come to therapy because they want to. They feel dragged into it or court mandated, and they'll spend the first 6 months just kind of trying to shine on the therapist. Go in there as a couple, and then the therapist can see after a few sessions, oh, Sally, you're doing this, and Bill, you shut down a lot, don't you? And then the therapist can make the referral to somebody individual. But what we know is there are things you can do, and we also know that it's not good for them to stay unavailable. And so the facts are they could get sick, they could develop not only medical problems, but psychological problems. They could have a higher mortality rate. You need to scare them a little bit into why they need to do this. It's not just about you, it's about their own life as well. The Bible says, open up your heart.
Are you going through your struggles alone? Do you want someone to talk to help you through your pain? Do you feel like a failure when you relapse again, telling yourself, next time will be different? Don't walk this path alone anymore. Join a life recovery group today and be a person that your friends and family can be proud of. God created us to be in community, and we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country, and if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. Life Recovery brings recovery to you, right where you are. You'll take a journey with others to find healing and freedom. Whether you're looking to join a group or start one, New Life Ministries is here for you. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverytoday.net.
Welcome back to Life Recovery Today. Steve Arterburn still here. You know, one of the reasons that we have a tough time in relationships is well, we're struggling, and we carry that struggle with us. And a lot of times the struggle shows up in the form of anxiety. It can keep us from connecting. And then an extreme form of that anxiety are the panic attacks. And oh my goodness, they can be frightening. I had them before I moved to California, and it was scary. Now, John's going to help us understand how panic attacks occur and what it is that we could do if we experience them. And of course, once you have one, you're scared to death. You're going to have another one. You're afraid of the fear that's coming down the pike. But John's got the answer, so let's hear what he has to say about anxiety that develops into a panic attack. Here's John.
Let's talk about panic attacks. If you've never had a panic attack, consider yourself fortunate. It's one of the worst experiences a person can feel. If you haven't had one, don't think to yourself, oh yeah, I know what it's like to be scared, or I went to a horror flick and I had a panic attack. You didn't. Fear is, a sense of there's a foreboding, there's a danger ahead, but I have my wherewithal, I can think clearly. A panic attack has to do when your entire system is so overloaded with fear that it's what's called amygdala hijack. You go from your thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, where we think and we judge and we're calm and we're rational, to the amygdala, which is the fight or flight or freeze or fold, as I call it, part. And literally, the amygdala hijacks the thinker, and you are like an infant who is screaming and crying and alone. Many things happen physically that are awful, painful, disruptive, distressful. You feel like you're going to have a heart attack. Some people say it felt like my heart was going to burst out of my chest. Your breathing speeds up. That's respiration. You're breathing way too fast and too often. Blood pressure shoots up. Pulse shoots up. And literally, a person thinks they're going to die. Now, fortunately, I don't know of any cases where somebody's died from a panic attack, but it sure makes you feel like you are. So what do you do about them? Well, let's understand them first. Panic attacks generally have to do with a trigger response to some negative thing. Maybe that we got too much pressure on us, or there are too many bad things happening in life, or that there's a relationship problem or whatever. But there's a trigger response. We all have that, but the person who suffers with panic attacks has a trigger to some of those bad things, and they just can't think normally about it like, well, that's a bummer. My job's not like it was, or I've got a child who's sick. That's a bummer. I'm sad. I need help. That's like normal. That trigger, whatever let's call it a stressor. The stressor triggers them, goes into a very bad place where the body acts in an overwhelmed way. What it has to do with is that basically it's the response that something in you is reminding you of something that has got to do some work. So we look at it more as a symptom of something than just a problem in and of itself. So first off, and this is something, if I had panic attacks right now, I would be seeing a counselor, because you don't want to just see somebody who's a supportive mentor type person for panic attacks. It'd be like saying if you had an eating disorder, well, you don't go see a mentor or a friend for an eating disorder. You wouldn't see a friend or a mentor for a kidney problem or diabetes. Panic attacks is what I call when we've crossed the clinical line. There's stresses in life that love and friends and the buddies and some good thoughts can fix. That's below the clinical line. You cross the clinical line and your brain chemistry's changed. You've got to go see a professional, a licensed person. So some panic attacks have started with people who don't have good bonding, meaning that they have trust issues. It's hard for them to open up. They haven't felt like they've ever had decent, safe, vulnerable relationships. They have a bonding problem. Second group is those people who have what's called boundaries problems. Henry Cloud has written a million boundaries books about when they feel like they can't say no to anybody. They're afraid. They're people pleasers. They're conflict avoidant. They feel like they've got to rescue everybody, so they're kind of always burning out on the edge because they give their time to so many people and allow the bad people in. That's boundaries. The third one is people have a hard time with a thing called reality. Now, I don't mean just reality, but negative realities. They have a hard time, for example, in perfectionism toward themselves. They think they have to be perfect all the time. Or they're so disappointed when somebody You know, a driver flips them off on the freeway and that messes up their whole day because that people shouldn't be like that, or why has God allowed the world to be like that? That they have these expectations of them or the world or other people that are very perfectionistic, and they also have a really mean judge in their head, a harsh judge that when they mess up, they say, you're disqualified, you're useless, you'll be on the bench, you're hurting everybody. These are problems in what we would call metabolizing negative reality. They just don't go, yeah, I'm not perfect, I've got problems, but God loves me and my friends love me and I'll get better. They can't do that. So that could be a problem in be able to digest negative reality and live with it, because perfectionism and the judge beat you up. And the fourth one is capability. And capability means the ability to feel like an adult, feel like you can handle mutual relationships. You never feel like a little kid, kind of wanting to get everybody to approve of you and tell you, yes, you're okay with me, you're okay with me. You kind of know you're okay. And, Paul says that to Timothy, study to show yourself approved. I know I'm approved. I don't need to have everybody pat me on the back. I'm not afraid of people disapproving of me. So if you've got issues in bonding or issues in boundaries or issues in reality or issues in capability, a lot of times it comes out with a problem in what we call our character structure. I have a test called the TPRAT, Townsend Personal Relational Assessment Tool, TPRAT. Takes 10 minutes, 60 questions online. You can take it and find out where your issues are in bonding, boundaries, reality, and capability, and that's the first clue. As you work on those issues, because people with panic attacks have issues in one or more of those areas, then you grow into strength and healing in those areas, and you develop a thing called resilience, because people with strong character become resilient. And you can take a disappointment or a sick kid or a job problem or a relationship problem, and you don't like it, but you can adapt to it and bounce back from it and think better. And when you're resilient, guess what happens? You feel less fear, because resilience means I can handle life. I got God and my friends, and I'm smart, and I can handle these things. Now my fear is dissipating, not to zero. We need to be afraid of some things, but not to a panic level, because I'm feeling less helpless. People who have panic attacks often feel entirely helpless, but if you get working on those character issues, you'll feel like, I know where I'm going in life. I'm not helpless. It's the helplessness that it's getting rid of the helplessness into resilience that brings the fear down. The next one is guided de-escalating experiences. Guided de-escalating experiences, meaning if your therapist thinks it's a safe thing to do, to walk through those fears with you, to talk about them, to feel them with a person. Now, if it's too overwhelming and you think you might go to ER, you got to work on the character issues some more and get stronger. But a good therapist will know, I think you're ready to try this, and you can always say, too scared to do it, and that's fine. But it's when they say, okay, let's talk about your fear of your daughter's, getting sick. Well, it's scary because of this. And as they talk about it, they help you to imagine yourself in that place, what it's like, what you're afraid of. You're afraid the doctor's going to say it's bad news. What if she gets really sick or whatever? And the presence of the therapist, a good therapist, you start to feel like, I'm not alone here. You're in my world with this, and I'm not all by myself. And all of a sudden you feel better, because not only does resilience and strength to decrease anxiety and panic, it also love and support and them saying, I'm with you the whole way. In my book, People Feel, I talk about being in each other's well, my well of pain, my well of fear, my well of being overwhelmed. And you're saying, gosh, my therapist is in the well with me. And get some friends in the well with you too, because being connected decreases the panic. The other piece is you should start to notice, as you're working on this intentionally, more time spaces in between panic attacks. If you're panicking 3 times a day, you got to work on that a lot. Then it'll get to, twice a week, then once a week, then once a month, then once a year, maybe once a decade, maybe never again. But you should notice that this is working, that there is more and more time between. That's a good sign. And finally, take advantage of the medicine, because if the brain is in amygdala hijack, sometimes you'll just need the medication to say, okay, I've got my wits around me. Now I'm just scared, but I'm not panicked. So you should be decreasing the medication the stronger you get, but use it especially in the initial stages. It'll really, really help you. So hope the best for you there, and there's lots of help available.
Life recovery isn't just about making the courageous choice to give up an addiction or dependency. It's a journey towards health, wholeness, and becoming your very best you. If you need resources to help you in your journey, we can help. There are many life recovery resources that you can do on your own, with a group, or with your church. We have Bibles, workbooks, and devotionals that you can use to work your recovery right where you are. That's the beauty of Life Recovery. To learn more or to get the Life Recovery Bible or any other Life Recovery resource, visit liferecoverytoday.net or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
So we started the program and we were talking about step number 7 and a willingness to ask God for help. Now, if we go to the Bible, Luke 11:9-10 says this, "And so I tell you, keep on asking, and you will receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking, and you will find. Keep on knocking, and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, everyone who seeks finds, and to everyone who knocks, the door will be open." And I want you to find whatever it is you need within yourself to have the courage and the willingness to ask for help. Now, sometimes what we need is we need to talk to somebody on the phone and let them give us a little triage and let them tell us, okay, sounds like you need this book, sounds like you could use a counselor here, or one of our life recovery groups, and we can tell you when and where they're meeting, whether it's online or in person in your area. But what you need is you need some courage to have the willingness to make the call. Now, I've said it many times that whenever we need to pick up the phone and ask for help, the phone instantly becomes a 400 to 500 pound object that's really, really hard for us to pick up. But once we do, we never, ever regret it, because God uses other people to give us the things that we're asking for. Now, He's told us in this passage that I read, keep on asking, keep on knocking. Well, it coincides with the scripture that says, those who persevere will receive the crown of life. So don't give up, but also don't not do what you can do while you're waiting for God, as you're continuing to knock and ask and request, while you're waiting for God to do what only God can do. I believe God can do anything, and I don't want Him to do anything that doesn't help for the greater good. Ask Him to show you His will for you, and He'll do it. Thanks for watching. I'm going to see you right here next week.
Thanks for joining us for Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. We hope this program has helped you integrate God's truth and wisdom into your recovery journey. This program is brought to you by New Life Ministries, and it's your support that keeps this program on the air. When you contact us for any reason, be sure to let us know that you watch on NRB. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to liferecoverytoday.net. Please join us again next week for more Life Recovery Today.